Let me be absolutely clear about something. We, the Vrathi Dominion, did not expect this. Not even remotely. Not in our darkest projections. Not in the simulations we ran after too much confidence and too little sleep. We had defeated 17 civilizations before Earth. 17. We cracked the atmosphere of Delvori Prime in under 6 rotations. We collapsed the Question Hive so completely their own gravity consumed them. By every measurable standard in the known galaxy. We were terrifying. And then we found the humans. Our lead strategist, Commander Mossa Rek, stood before the High Fleet Council and said, with complete and unshakable confidence, "These creatures will kneel within 3 planetary cycles." He even smiled, the kind of smile you give when you already know how the story ends. "Oh, Mossa, you catastrophic fool. It began as it always did. We sent the ultimatum. Standard procedure. We were conquerors, not savages." The message was translated into 43 human languages. That should have been the first warning. 43. 1 planet. 1 species. 43 separate ways to argue with each other. What kind of species does that? Apparently, humans. And they were proud of it. The signal was transmitted at 0400 Earth Standard Time. Their night cycle. We chose it deliberately. We wanted confusion, disorientation, fear spreading in the dark while their population scrambled for leadership. Instead, a human named Soren Vael appeared on our screen. He was holding half-eaten food. He looked mildly inconvenienced. "Yeah, we saw it," he said. "Give us a few hours." A few hours. Mossa Rek turned to me and said, "They must be in shock." I said nothing, but something cold shifted inside me. It did not feel like shock. It felt like warning. We granted them the hours. We monitored their communications, expecting panic. There was none. There was arguing. Loud, passionate, bureaucratic arguing. One regional government protested that it had not been properly consulted. Another demanded procedural review. Several held public debates. One of them held a vote. A vote. Our fleet was in orbit, large enough to eclipse part of their sun, and they were voting on how to respond to us. Mossa called them primitive. I began to suspect something far worse. For hours later, Soren Vael returned. Different food, same expression. "All right," he said. "Here is our official response." He looked directly into the transmission lens. No, just that. No threats. No speeches. No theatrics. Just no. Mossa Rek ordered the first strike. 48 assault carriers. Our finest formation. Fast, surgical, designed to erase planetary defenses before a species fully understood it was dying. On Delvori Prime, this formation ended resistance in 12 minutes. Over Earth, it lasted 9, but not in our favor, because what Soren Vael did not mention, what our scouts did not detect, what our cultural analysts dismissed as primitive superstition, was that humans had spent 3 centuries preparing for a war they were not even sure would come. Not out of certainty, out of habit. Preparing for catastrophic conflict, apparently, was something they did between elections and dinner. They deployed weapons we had never cataloged. Entire classes of destructive technology absent from every known database. Developed quietly. Tested in isolation. Buried under layers of classification so dense even our infiltrators found nothing. 11 carriers went dark in 4 minutes. Not damaged. Dark. Mossa Rek stood perfectly still on the bridge. Then, in a voice I had never heard from him before, small, thin, uncertain, he asked, "What are they firing?" I checked the sensor data. I checked it again. Then I answered, "Everything." The channel opened once more. Soren Vael's voice returned. Calm. Measured. Almost bored. Round 1. Round 1. He said it like there would be a round 2. Like this was structured. Scheduled. Like refreshments would be served between the destruction of our fleet. Our 48 assault carriers, the pride of the Vrathi Dominion's Eastern Armada, were, apparently, the warm-up act. You must understand something about Vrathi psychology. We do not panic. It is not in our biological design. Our adrenal response is slow, deliberate, dignified. 17 wars. 17 victories. Not once did a Vrathi commander lose composure on the bridge. Mossa Rek lost composure. Not theatrically. He simply sat down, very slowly, placed both hands flat on the console, and stared at the tactical display long enough that his second officer had to tap his shoulder to confirm he was still responsive. He was responsive. He was recalculating reality. Battles have rhythm. Advance. Counter. Collapse. Recover. Even slaughter has a tempo. What unfolded over Earth had none. It felt less like warfare, and more like something deeply irritated that had finally been given permission to stop pretending to be polite. Their ground-based rail systems, which we had classified as primitive kinetic infrastructure, were launching payloads into low orbit at velocities our hull plating was not rated to survive. Their naval fleets, dismissed because they operated in water, began launching synchronized missile strikes from 3 separate oceans simultaneously. 3 oceans, at once, as if someone had studied their planet and decided every surface was a weapons platform. And then there were the pilots. We had analyzed their aviation history. Atmospheric craft, limited range, minor threat. We had not accounted for this. Human pilots are not reckless. They are deliberate. They look at impossible odds and decide, consciously, to engage anyway. Our wing commander, Drav Selu, veteran of 4 campaigns, reviewed the trajectory data of one human pilot identified by the call sign Margot. He watched her maneuvers for 11 silent seconds. Then he said, very quietly, "She is not afraid of us." "No," I replied. "She should be. I know. We are extremely frightening." "Drav," I said, "I believe that assessment may be outdated." The recall order went out 2 hours later. Of 48 carriers, 19 remained fully functional. 7 were operational but damaged. For required towing, one had drifted into a slightly altered orbital vector, and its crew could not explain how. The rest were debris. Mossa convened an emergency command session. He stood at the head of the briefing table like a being recently introduced to a deeply unpleasant truth. Engagement data displayed. Casualty reports. Weapon signatures still unidentified. Footage of Margot's final attack run. No one spoke. Finally, Intelligence Chief Koss Prevari, whose career spanned longer than most of us have been alive, leaned forward. "The issue is not their weapons," he said. "The issue is that they have been at war with themselves for 10,000 years." He paused, "And we just gave them a common enemy." Silence. Heavy. Absolute. We reviewed live planetary feeds. No mass panic. No societal collapse. No cities burning. Their communications, once chaotic with internal disagreement, now displayed something that caused my translation matrix to revalidate 3 times. Global coordination. Across languages. Across borders. Across factions that had been arguing hours earlier. Unified. Efficient. Focused. Soren Vael appeared again. No food this time. He stood before a structure radiating energy, signatures our sensors disliked intensely. He looked directly into the transmission array. "We gave you the first round for free," he said calmly. "You should leave. No threat. No raised voice. Just certainty." We left. The Vrathi Dominion, conquerors of 17 civilizations, turned and withdrew. The most unsettling detail? They let us go. They tracked us to the outer marker. We confirmed later they had the range. They had the firepower. They had more than enough ammunition. They simply chose not to use it. One intercepted human transmission explained why. Casual. Offhand. Already moving on. Let them go. They'll tell the others. They were correct. We told everyone. Every council. Every fleet. Every species that had ever considered Earth a developing curiosity. We told them this. Do not mistake internal conflict for weakness. Do not mistake democracy for disunity. Do not mistake argument for fragility. And above all, do not give humanity a reason to stop being civilized. We thought humanity was divided. We thought they were weak. We were wrong. Because the moment we gave them a common enemy, they stopped fighting each other.